My first impression of Alien the RPG was literally, where has this game been and how did I not know about this? And then immediately looking at various websites, watching some YouTube videos, and I was really, really excited. I mean, right away I was ready to buy in, because while I love the Alien universe, the AVP Aliens versus Predator universe, all of that experience has been tabletop. Miniature wargaming, AVP The Hunt Begins, exploring that narrative from lots of colonial marines, kind of blowing away lots of aliens, very tactical, pushing out that level. So now to experience the feeling perhaps of the original Alien, and to be able to explore the narrative, explore the gaming universe from an almost kind of corporate side, I found that to be very, very intriguing. And in many ways, this RPG is the type of game that I've really wanted to play for a long, long time, based on two very, very interesting mechanics. And looking through the book, production value over the top, narrative amazing, lots of graphics and images supporting that narrative. What I find amazing about the book is, if you know nothing of the Alien universe, you pick this book up, and not only does it get you pumped, it tells you everything that you need to know. Beyond the rules, beyond playing an adventure, whether it's cinematic or campaign play. If you know about the Alien universe, if you're a fan or you're familiar with it, it just captures it so much more. It's an amazing book to read through. So now to begin to explore it on the opposite side, very, very intriguing. I don't think a board game or a non-RPG format, role-playing format, could even begin to do it. So I'm looking at some different adventures. I'm kind of kicking around a few ideas. And the first thing that I noticed in reading through the rules and exploring different things, it really hit some of my personal buttons in the Alien universe, because the two aspects that are interesting. First, the xenomorph, encountering the xenomorph. The universe is extremely lethal. Even if you're playing synthetic, a colonial marine, someone with some training, most of the players will just have an everyday role. The xenomorph is deadly. And right away from a role-playing perspective, I also love Dungeons & Dragons. This is something where it's like, wait, you're not a godlike adventurer. Death is permanent. You're most likely going to die. This is just the feelings of reading through the rules, where if I'm sitting down with a table of 8 players, I mean, I'd love to play the game at 6 to 8. If I'm sitting around with 8 players, do the numbers. Look to your left, look to your right. That's probably who's going to die. And someone's looking to the left and to the right of you. I find role-playing games that are extremely lethal to be very, very interesting, especially as a countercurrent to the current crop of role-playing games like D&D, where essentially you're effectively immortal. You level up so fast, the intervention of magic, whether it's divine or arcane, means, I died, okay, I just pay a bunch of gold, I get resurrected back up. There's no consequences. There's no life or death struggle, because in the back of your mind, it's a role-playing game. We can work things out. I mean, very much influenced by MMOs, where if you have enough resources, you can get back up and get back to life. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but D&D has accelerated that tremendously. And to counter that, the other two role-playing systems that I enjoy playing, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay and Dark Heresy, 40K, they're extremely lethal also. Perhaps on par with Alien, perhaps a little bit more. But the difference is those are role-playing systems outside of the mainstream. You have to know about 40K. You have to know about the Warhammer Fantasy Old World setting. Alien, I'm intrigued by, because this is a sci-fi modern corporate setting backed by the movies. I think it's going to be really easy to transition players in and get them up to speed. So I'm curious to see how lethal the game is, how it appears to be, and how fighting the xenomorph in whatever capacity, trying to outwit it or trying to directly confront it, or a bunch of them if it's an infestation, that's going to be a lot of fun. That's going to be a real challenge, humanity versus aliens, humanity versus the engineers. The second side, yes, the system is very elegant with the D6. I'm kind of glad to be getting away from the D&D dice and stepping away from the D100 system. I like the idea that little stuff isn't really tracked. You're focusing on immersive, quick play. I mean, all those things with the system itself, yes, very positive. But the idea of panic, terror, insanity, where as you play certain things you see as a character, there's going to be counter dice which may cause you to freak out. I'm really intrigued by that. And I've often thought in a system, a role-playing system, there's this duality where you realize, yes, you're playing a character in a game, maybe even D&D. You might have some ability, depending on the universe, like D&D, that could be godlike, or if we're playing a recent GURPS modern game, where a little bit more down to earth, but you're still kind of special forces. You still have some training. You have some mental conditioning, but the human mind can only take so much. And how do you represent that in a game as a game master? I don't want to say, oh, you see this freaks you out, you go insane, your character's out of control. I mean, I don't want to do that. I don't want to railroad. I'm really intrigued where, based on what you see and how much you want to push it, these opposing D6s play into your regular skill D6s, and after certain things happen, you might go insane, and who knows how you're going to react. So it's this question, especially with confronting the xenomorph. A lot of games where you're going to confront like a boss monster, or there's some element of fighting. It's kind of like, oh, let's level up, let's get super powerful. So this way, when we confront the final boss, the dragon, the demon lord, the warlord, or in this case, the xenomorph, we're ready, we're jacked up. I see that almost possibly as a failure. Almost to the point where if we're exploring a derelict spaceship or we're doing some sort of corporate thing, maybe we want to try and beat the monster before we have to fight it. Like it seems like if we're fighting the xenomorph, a lot of things have gone horribly wrong. And I found myself being immersed in the book. Dad, I love you, but even after all these years, I don't know what the heck you were thinking. So I was probably 6, 7, 8, or maybe 7 or 8 years old. And my dad calls me and he's like, hey, let's watch a movie together. And I'm like, great, let's watch a movie, with my dad. And he's like, it's a sci-fi movie. You're going to love it. It's Alien. So, I mean, I'm like 8 years old. Let's watch Alien. So I'm watching Alien, and it was really cool with the space scenes and exploring the derelict spaceship. And then the chest burster breaks out. I'm like freaking out as a kid. I'm having nightmares. And ultimately, for that scene, that moment of panic, obviously back in the day, parenting was very lax. What really freaked me out the most, and it's interesting because when I was reading this book, I'm reading the core RPG rulebook and seeing about the panic in it and reading about the xenomorph. And the book is so well presented, I see myself having flashbacks. What really freaked me out, seeing Alien for the first time, being like insanely young, was when Dallas was in the air ducts and you've got that motion tracker going off and he's like moving, and then he just turns around and like, yeah, it's a dude in like a latex suit, but everything was perfect. The scream, the alien kind of leaping out, and just like that to this day, every time, even when I rewatch it, I'm like, I know it's coming. That like freaks me out. That messes with my mind. That's the experience. That's what I want to have in the Alien universe. And this RPG seems to offer the tools. I say seems to offer the tools because it's going to be up to the GM, the game master, to pull this out. But I see an amazing, amazing toolkit. And to counter this, years ago, I ran kind of a corporate espionage, alien-esque, alien xenomorph type thing using the GURPS rule set. And we had a lot of fun, but the GURPS rule set has this offset of skills versus traits and pushing that. I mean, it does a great job of slotting into literally universal systems. But I struggled with capturing the terror of the xenomorph and the lethality of it in the GURPS rule set. In this rule set Alien RPG, it's there, it's ready to go.